Moving on with our glossary, we are going to be working on E through L in this section. And let's start off with earnest money. Earnest money is going to be like good faith money that is part of consideration with a purchase agreement. It holds a buyer accountable to do or not do something specifically in the contract. Earnest money is held in an escrow account, also known as a trust account in real estate. And remember those escrow accounts, I'm sure that's coming up on our list. Those are other people's money, cannot be commingled with the general funds of a broker. An easement, this is the right to use someone's property, but it does not rise to the level of ownership. This easement is part of a deed. It's one of 4 types of encumbrances. Easements happen a lot with utilities where they need to gain access on your property in order to service maybe a drain washout or something like that that's on your property, but it's actually city maintained. Your eminent domain. I think this is a great option for a test question. This is the government's right to own private property for public use. This might be something that they acquire to widen a road. We've got to acquire all the land from those private owners to make for that public highway. An encumbrance. These have 4 categories. Liens, easements, which we just discussed, encroachments, and deed restrictions, which we discussed in the last video. These are things that are specific to the property. And it means that there's some interest, but it does not rise to the level of actual ownership. A sheet might be a term that's good for you to know. That's when someone dies and they don't have a will and they don't have any family. They don't have any next of kin or heirs. So the benefactor of their real and personal property becomes the state of Iowa. Here's this escrow account. This is an account that can be used for several different things. A trust account for earnest money. It can be used with a mortgage to hold a borrower's taxes and insurance. Remember, a payment is made up of PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that tax and insurance you pay to the bank, they're going to put that into an escrow account. And then when your taxes and homeowners insurance become due, they've got the money to make those payments on your behalf. The third type is how we close transactions in escrow. So the buyer brings all the money that they owe to settle the transaction, the loan, the down payment, closing costs. That all goes into the escrow account of the closing company, which could be a title company, closing escrow company, or an attorney. Then from that money out of the escrow account, again, we pay off all the seller's itemized bills and then hopefully cut them a check for what's left over, their net amount, which is their escrow. All of that goes through, or sorry, that's their proceeds. All of that goes to an escrow account. And again, it's other people's money. It cannot be contaminated by commingling it with general funds. Converting that to general funds is highly illegal. Okay, we've got several estates here. An estate can be personal or real property created while someone is alive or even upon their death. These next 4, estate at sufferance, at will, for years, and period to period, These are all types of leases. I do think you absolutely, for agency purposes, there's 10 agency questions. I think a few of those could be around types of agency contracts. Exclusive listing and exclusive right to sell are both types of seller representation agreements. The exclusive listing is where the seller employs only one agent, yet they still retain the right to sell it on their own. And then whichever is the procuring cause, the seller or the broker, determines whether the commission gets paid or not. An exclusive right to sell listing is a listing agreement with a seller where they hire you as only one agent, and no matter who sells the property, you earn the commission. So they're not allowed to sell it on their own like a for sale by owner during the listing period. External obsolescence. This is a depreciation factor used when calculating the cost approach for an appraisal. And external obsolescence is going to be a factor that influences the value by an outside source. So maybe it's the retina burning orange house across the street, a busy intersection. It's proximity to a known nuisance, like a very loud manufacturing business. Fair Housing Act, we're going to dive into this a lot deeper. Again, I think you could have 5 or 6 fair housing questions on the exam. You'll have one on the state as well. Fannie Mae. This was created during right after the Great Depression as part of the New Deal, in trying to get the economy back in gear after the Great Depression. It was originally a government-sponsored enterprise. It is now publicly traded, but what Fannie Mae does is they buy mortgages on the secondary mortgage market. So the primary mortgage market is the one that originates the loan. And then Fannie Mae buys them on the secondary mortgage market, allowing those banks to go out and originate new products, new loans. And they are the major player in that secondary mortgage market. And that fact alone could be a great test question for you. Let's pop down here to an FHA loan. This is an FHA insured loan. It is a government-backed loan. Again, anybody can do an FHA loan, but it's the government that provides the mortgage insurance on it. Instead of a private company, the government does it. Fiduciary responsibilities. This is your cold AC, care, obedience, loyalty, disclosure, accounting, and confidentiality. These test questions will fall under agency. And again, I would expect about 3 or 4 test questions around those and how they function. A fixture. This is personal property that's become so attached to the real estate that it is now included property. It becomes a fixture. And the way it becomes a fixture is its method of installation and its intention for being there. Those are 2 big factors. A foreclosure. This happens when someone doesn't pay their mortgage and the bank takes the property back in order to satisfy their debt. This is also known as an REO property, which stands for real estate owned. Functional obsolescence. This is another depreciation term that goes along with the cost approach of doing an appraisal. And this is understanding a property's usefulness or desirability. The example that I think I've given is there's a difference between a 3-bedroom or a 3-bedroom where you've got to walk through one bedroom to get to the other. Those function very, very differently. And an example of functional obsolescence. General warranty deed. This is another good one for you. This is a deed. We've got title, right? This means you own the property. The way that we prove that you own the property is we do a deed. There's different types of deeds. The general warranty deed is the best. It's the creme de la creme. And the reason it's the best is because it warrants against title imperfections in the past, in the present, and in the future. A gross lease. This is a rental agreement where the tenant pays rent plus utilities, but the landlord pays the operating expenses, such as building maintenance, building insurance, and property taxes. Group boycott. This is one of the antitrust laws where you have two companies that conspire to withdraw business from another company. And this is where really monopolies are created. A homestead. This is a protection from your family home so that it cannot be taken away by most creditors. And the reason we say most creditors is a mortgage doesn't count. Obviously, the whole concept of that is, pay, stay. But you cannot run your credit card up $30,000, not pay it, and then take your $300,000 personal home to satisfy that debt. An inactive license. This is a state term here in Iowa that we use. Anytime someone's license is hanging with the real estate commission, it means it's not active. And if your license is not active, you cannot be selling real estate. The income approach. This is a method for doing an appraisal to help establish a value. And we're using future income to give a property value. So we're taking gross rent minus vacancies, and we're using that in combination with the capitalization rate in order to create a value for the property. This works really well for rental properties, such as apartment buildings. An independent contractor. You might have a question about this around what your broker owes you. And it's nothing. It's nothing. It's definitely different than a W-2 employee. But as an independent contractor, if you create an LLC as a business entity, does that change your relationship with your broker? No, it does not. Interest. This is the charge that the bank has for you to use their money. Okay. Joint tenancy is another big one. This is a type of ownership. And what's important for you to know about this are two things. One, it's got the right of survivorship, which means if you have co-ownership and one person passes, there's simply one less owner. Now there's two. And the other thing to know about this is what allows a surviving spouse to avoid probate. Upon the death of their spouse, because there's simply one less owner, they stay in the property. It's a type of co-ownership, again, for married or unmarried couples. A judgment. This is a court order for a financial debt that needs to be paid. It's not an encumbrance. It does not rise to the level of an encumbrance. It's a type of lien, but remember, only liens that are specific to the property become encumbrances. A judgment is a general lien. So while it is a lien, it does not rise to the level of an encumbrance. Land contract. This is where the owner provides financing to the borrower or to the buyer, and they remain on title until that loan is paid off in full. Typically, land contracts or a contract sale will maybe be short-term until the buyer can refinance, make the seller whole, and then again, they come off of title. Lead-based paint. What is key for you to know this will come up under property disclosures. You'll have 5 test questions around property disclosures. What comes up with this is you've got to provide a lead-based paint disclosure for any property built prior to 1978. Prior to 1978. Legal description. This is the law, how they recognize property boundaries. And there's 3 types of legal descriptions: meets and bounds, government or rectangular survey is the second one. And the third one is the lot and block system that uses the recorded plat map. A lien. We've been talking about liens. It's a charge against the property for a security of a debt. It could be for a mortgage, utilities. A mechanics lien is a pretty general one for someone that does work to your house. Actually, new construction homes are built on a pile of liens. All of the, you've got the builder or the general contractor, and then they subcontract out all this work to pour the foundation, to grade the lot, to frame it, electrical, plumbing, roofing, trim carpenters, etc. They all put a lien on the property, and then that ensures that the builder or general contractor pays those individual subcontractors back. And then, of course, we've got to have all those liens removed in order to sell it now to a new homeowner. Okay, so it's built on a pile of liens. Loan origination fee. This might be a good one for you. Remember, this is a charge to just create a loan. To get the party started, they're going to charge you a loan origination fee. It's a closing cost. Loan to value. That's the ratio between what you're borrowing on the loan and the purchase price of the property. Loan to value, I definitely think will be a math or calculations question. One of those 8 will come from that. And then we just discussed the lot and block method as a legal description. And this is the one you're probably going to see the most. But it's the one with the recorded plat map that's going to read something like Lot 7, Plat 4, Butterfly Kisses Estates. Okay, not the best name. But it's going to have a lot, a plat, and then the name of the subdivision. Up next, we have vocabulary words M through R.